Hi, and thank you for joining us on the No Matter What Club podcast. Today, we're discussing what some consider a controversial topic, harm reduction. Harm reduction is a model of treatment that is saving lives, and we want to honor all roads along the recovery journey. Just a disclaimer, No Matter What Recovery is an abstinence-based organization and program. However, we do offer harm reduction in the form of medication-assisted treatment, otherwise known as MAT. Please help me welcome our guest today, Mikey, who has been sober for the past 15 and a half years. He has been working in public health for the past 11, and his focus is on street outreach and harm reduction. Mikey is of service in many ways, and you can see him or catch him volunteering his time in drag performing at many recovery events as Mimi E. I'm so excited. Mikey saw me when I came into the rooms of recovery. He's seen me out in my addiction and then back in this big, beautiful life of sobriety that I have, and I'm honored to call him my friend. Please welcome Mikey. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the No Matter What Club. I am so excited to introduce our next guest to everyone. Obviously, we have our regulars, the amazing program director of No Matter What Recovery, Jack Moll, over there, and our executive director, Mell McCracken. But our special guest, which I'm so excited about, is a dear friend of mine and also someone that I look up to working in the industry of substance abuse and mental health, is Mike Cativo.
Yay!
Everybody, welcome Mikey.
Hi, everyone.
So, Mikey, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and your story and whatever you feel like talking about?
Yeah, so, all right. So I'm a little Latin boy that's 51 years old. I've been sober for 15 and a half years.
Okay.
May 10th, 2009. I came in the program. I don't know, can we mention the program? No,
Yeah.
we're not going to mention. Well, whatever. An anonymous program, and I was greeted by a lot of people that didn't look like me, I had nothing in common with. Can I say what they were? A bunch of lesbians and Jews. And I had nothing in common with these people. You know, I'm from South Central. We didn't have that many Jews, and lesbians, we have one or two, and we were usually scared of them. So when I came in, they were so nice to me, and I guess I look hungry. So they would take me to all the Denny's, and they would take me to all the norms and stuff. Like, everybody wanted to feed me. So, I've been sober since then. I haven't had a reason strong enough to go out and exchange that date. You know, May 10th, 2009, it just so happens to May 10th is also Latin Mother's Day. So it was a great gift for my mom so she can get off my back and stop asking me, to pay bills and like get up from the bed and like, when are you going to sleep? I'm like, what do you want? So, yeah.
How long were you awake?
I started partying like really young, but, alcohol did work for me. Like, it was pretty, like, I was a cheap date. Like, I would drink a beer and I'll give it up, and and have a good time. But then something happened when from South Central, I used to look at the Hollywood sign and I knew there was something else out there. Like, I knew it, and I learned how to speak English watching I Love Lucy. So I don't know if you can tell, but some of my laugh and stuff, but like, and I wanted that life she had. I wanted to be a redhead. I wanted to have Ricky. I wanted to have little Ricky. I wanted to have the couch, the noisy neighbors. Like, I wanted to have it all, the fashion, and so I came right after high school. I discovered Hollywood, and it was nothing like the TV, like Hollywood Boulevard still smells like piss, the alleys were dark and shady, and but somehow I made it work. Right. So as soon as I stepped here, I discovered a whole new career for me. Right. I was working at Prudential Healthcare back then. I was doing healthcare claims. And when I came here, I started doing a little bit of Well, all of my charges say soliciting a ride. So you might want. There's some people call it prostitution, but I call it soliciting a ride. That's what I was charged with, and dressed as a woman. So I made a lot of money, but with that came the issue that I had to stay up all night because I had to make more money. So I started discovering other substances, right, that came in a powder formation, a liquid formation, pills, leaves, I don't know, whatever it was, right? I took it. And yes. So to answer your question, that was such a long answer. But to answer your question, one day I went to an after hours because I came out of jail that day, and I went to an after hours, and I think I was buying a bag of cocaine, and they tricked me. They sold me a bag of crystal meth, and that little $40 baggie kept me up for 14 years.
Oh wow.
Yes, 14 years. I like to think myself as the Natalie Nunn. Like, I ran LA. Like, we had a good time. At the beginning, everything was so much fun. It was about doing a bump and let the DJ take over your body, going dancing. And then later on with the years, that bump started connecting with other parts of my body. And that's when it got interesting.
Wow. Did anybody relate to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
Do you feel like when you started finding yourself in nightlife, the shame that you may have felt by growing up the way that you did affected your using, or did all your shame kind of go out the window when you started using? Or
So I don't know if I had so much shame. I've always been like, I've always been me, but I don't know if I had shame. I still don't know if I had shame. And, even now in the business that I'm in now, when some of my clients, they tell me they have shame, I have not a hard time, but like I really have to dig in order for me to understand them, because I was just unapologetic. Like, it's been me. Like, me, yes, but some people hearing us or seeing us, I don't know where you're at, but like, I'm me, whatever I am, there I am, and it's me. I just don't deal with the shame so well, And again, when I came here, I was hanging around with people that used to, they liked the fact that I was different. They liked the fact that I'm a 51-year-old man and I still speak like I'm 10. I'm still waiting for my voice to change, like puberty hit me and the voice never came. I was so mad, but it's just, I've always brought that light, So I don't know if I had shame. I always embraced who I was, especially later on in life. I started working. I was working at UPS, and as a little gay man, that's the dream job with all the men there. But also, I was working at a radio station where I became. I was answering phones, at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was up. I was tweaking, so that was easy to get there on time. But also, they like. I started answering phones, and they're like, "Oh, where's the little gay guy?" With the voice. So my voice actually came an asset to what I was doing until I got caught smoking meth in the bathroom. But
that'll do it.
I know, but it was such a great time of my life. Like, they would sit me in a room and there would be like 8 people staring at me, and whatever word that came out of my mouth, that was the topic of the next morning's show. I would say spiders, and everybody started Googling what spiders, where they came from, what difference of spiders we have. So it was a great time. It was a great time.
It sounds like you were around people that really celebrated who you were too, which is so important, right? And not everyone has access to that. But I'm loving that in your story, like, you had people encouraging you just to be out and authentic.
Yes. Yeah. And I also try to do the same too. You know what I mean? Even though I was in my addiction, even though I come from South Central and whatever it was, like I'm poor, whatever, like I've always tried to embrace other people too. You know what I mean? Like I've always tried to, like hug people. I'm a toucher. I touch people. Well, nowadays you got to be careful with that. But, like I like to celebrate people as well. Even the people that I work with now, like, sometimes, in the settings, we can't give each other hugs, but we have like secret handshakes or like little elbows that we do. Like we know that, like I see you.
A connection.
Absolutely.
Where did you learn that confidence from? Was that Lucille Ball, or was that something modeled for you?
Well, I think it's a lot. now that you point it out, like, I think so. Did you ever see Lucy walk in a room and not own it? Like,
No.
she
No, she-
always
every
owned
time,
it,
yeah.
you know, or Nene Leakes, you know, from the Housewives. Like, she walks in a room and she owns it. And I like that. I like that, you know, not to get, you know, crazy or try to use the power, but I like to have a good time. I like to have a good time, and I like to stay
celebrate
busy.
life.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get to celebrate life today. What do you do for work?
Okay, what do I do now? So, I love it. So, in the mornings, I've been doing public health. I was working for Friends Community Center for like 10 years, and now I just started, last year, I started working for the Los Angeles Center of Alcohol and Drug Abuse, La CADA. And so my title is a care coordinator, but I wear a lot of hats. Like, I'm a group facilitator. I work a lot. I'm the one that works for the harm reduction program, you know, which I'm finding out that, you know, like, I actually like it, because at the beginning it was a little, you know, I work for a woman. Her name, can I say her name?
Sure.
She deserves the credit. Ashley Weinberger.
Hi, Ashley Weinberger.
Hi, Ashley. She actually has a bunch of tattoos, and two of them is an actual wine glass and a burger. So, Weinberger. And I love her. I love her. I learned so much from her. She's so passionate about this. And at the beginning, I was like, you are not going to make me pass this pipes or syringes, you know, around.
What is harm reduction?
Okay, well, when it comes to work, harm reduction means, you know, at the end of it, the reality is that not everybody's going to stay sober, right? We are a treatment center, but not everybody's going to stay sober. We are in the heart of Skid Row. You know what I mean? Some people are using. So harm reduction for me, it's not just about drugs. It could be friendships. Right? It's lessen the harm for me. Very simple. Just lessen the harm, right? Reduce the harm. So friendships, you know, if you're in a group of friends and they don't treat you right, but then, you know, there's that one friend that you kind of don't pay attention to, but treats you really nice, I'm going to go towards that person. You know, when it comes to food, you know, if I'm going to eat, you know, I still don't like vegetables, so don't try to push them on me. Anything
You and
green, I
Paulo,
don't
that-
like.
Yeah, I don't eat vegetables either.
No, the only green thing I like is money. So, and that's it. You know, and when it comes to sex, you know, like, we don't have to go all the way, right? We don't have to have penetration when it comes to sex.
You were preaching? Like, yeah, that's where I'm like, hold on, let's slow everything down. Yes.
And I'm the type that I want it, you know, but like, I'm learning how to, like, oh, let's do a little mutual masturbation, you know, or let's give each other a rub or a massage, or let's, you know, oral, you know, and I don't like kissing that much. My husband, yeah, poor thing. I love my husband. But yeah, so there's other ways of lessen the harm. You know what I mean? But when it comes to drugs too, people are going to use drugs. So my job right now, you know, I had to put everything aside that I know, that I've learned in recovery from the Anonymous program, that, you know, I'm abstinent myself. I am abstinent from everything that would affect me from the neck up. You know what I mean?
And no matter what's an abstinence-based organization, but the reason I wanted to have this conversation, and Jack, maybe you can talk about it, is just, you know, we see a lot of clients that come through our doors, and abstinence isn't for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the basis of harm reduction is like being realistic, right? The likelihood of somebody being a one and done in sobriety is really rare. It took me 7 years to get sober. I stepped into my first AA meeting at 19. I didn't get sober until I was 26 years old. And I didn't have a lot of harm reduction guidance. It was all just abstinence or nothing. And I think harm reduction is realistic in that not everybody is going to get this. And not everybody is going to get this when I want them to get it. But I would like to increase their chances of staying alive through it and living through it, as opposed to increasing their obstacles. I would like to minimize them, right?
Is MAT, or medically assisted treatment, considered harm reduction?
Yes.
What can you explain what MAT is?
So medicine-assisted treatment, the gold standard, like I hate to say it, but like back in the day, and still a lot of places in the United States, the gold standard is considered methadone, right? You might see people lined up right around, in Silver Lake, right
Right down
around
the
the
street, yeah.
corner, lined up at 7 o'clock in the morning waiting for their methadone dose. That sort of has been the gold standard. There is now drugs like Suboxone, the brand name, which is buprenorphine, and Narcan or naloxone paired together, which basically satiates a part of the brain that creates craving. It fits into an opiate receptor the same way heroin might. So it satiates that. So the phenomenon of craving is eliminated physiologically. And then it's paired sometimes with an opiate antagonist, which basically rejects the effects of opiates from the brain.
So if someone tries to get high, they're not actually going to experience a high.
And there are, of course, dangers associated with that,
Sure.
right? Where people will find loopholes or ways around or use more drugs. I know for myself personally, I was not the greatest candidate for MAT. I would buy it on the street. I would regret taking it, so I would use more fentanyl to produce an effect, to override that naloxone. But if somebody is really dedicated to their recovery, really wants something better for themselves, they might be a great candidate for MAT. It's not for everyone.
Right. And I think I shared that with you. Like I've been reading studies, especially around like Vivitrol and the dangers. Like that as it starts to wear off, Vivitrol is, a once a month shot, supposed to last 30 days. But then in that fourth week, we see, it kind of diminishing returns, and then people go out and use, and and they die. So it's, I think harm reduction is like making sure that there's 360-degree like wraparound support if someone is opting in for MAT, right?
Yeah.
What does that 360-degree support look like?
Well, like where I work at, we do provide MAP services. And, again, I am part of the harm reduction group. Well, it's just me and my boss, but, and I do see the benefits of MAP services, right? I have had people that were coming in, because I do the storefront. So they'll come in and try to get free pipes, or new pipes or syringes, and I have connect them to MAP services, and they end up doing that. And that lessens for them the craving of using. And, I have had some that, stop using, but I also have had some that have decreased the amount that they use or how often they use. So again, for me, for myself, because I was abstinence from everything, and I always have that thing like now, but now it has opened my eyes to a whole new way of doing. There's other ways of doing things, right? And again, coming from a harm reduction approach, people are going to use. So my job is to see how I can best help them have a safer way of using, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for me as a sober person, there working in this industry, there was definitely an internal struggle for me with the harm reduction model, because the way that, and I had to understand that like the way that I was doing it is not the only way, but what works for me is to don't pick up or use no matter what. But that's not everybody's story.
No.
I mean, Mikey has seen me in my first sobriety. Mikey has seen me high, walking Santa Monica Boulevard, and now Mikey's seen me in this second sobriety. And I didn't. When I have 9.5 years now, but 9.5 years ago, I didn't know where to access any of that. And having access to clean syringes would have been really great for me because I was putting myself in positions that, there's nothing more shameful than having to go to CVS at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, try to find the only open 24-hour pharmacy, try to buy clean syringes, them not selling it to me because I'm tweaked out, and then have to put myself in a situation when I go back, because I'm going to get high, put myself in that situation and not have access to clean paraphernalia or utensils. And
I think there's like so much gatekeeping. Like I worked with the city of West Hollywood for the Institute for Public Strategies, and West Hollywood as a city was actually trying to get services in, harm reduction services in, and it was rejected. like, because people have this idea of what that means. Oh, then that means like there's going to be a whole bunch of junkies on the street. And like, we have such a stigmatized view of what harm reduction is. And I think a lot of cities kind of gatekeep access to life-saving, you know, whether it's clean syringes, whether it's medical assisted therapy, with, you know, access to psychiatrists and a therapist and all the things that need to go with that. There's so much red tape and there's so many blocks around that. And I would like to see that open up, because a lot of people, that's their entry point into maybe abstinence in the future, or just, you know, reducing risk in what they're doing.
It's planting a seed, you know, and,
It is.
and one of the things that, you know, for licensing in the state of California as a drug and treatment program, you now have to have a policy on MAT as managed by the Department of Healthcare Services. And that wasn't always the case. And, you know, there are treatment programs that have this, like, you know, 12-step model that they, you know, are anti-medically assisted treatment. But for me, I think that having these conversations and talking about these things and educating and informing is so important.
The piece that you were speaking to of in your sobriety, it would have been so major if you knew where you could access this harm reduction. It really is all about a lack of education around access.
That's right.
That's how a lot of corporations run, on employees not knowing their rights, and a lot of medical facilities get to do the same. The fact of the matter is, when I got sober just 6 years ago, I got sober in a town of 1,000 people. A doctor in that town could write 1,000 Oxycontin prescriptions. They could write an Oxycontin prescription for every person there. They could only write 75 Suboxone prescriptions. They were barred from writing any more. So you can get 1,000 people addicted to Oxycontin, but you can only get 75 safely off of it. You could apply to prescribe more people. It was 150, and I believe it entirely capped out at 275. So that has been lifted in the last 6 years because of the overdose rates and the success that they're seeing with MAT. But when I got sober, I was with my mother, who doesn't know, you know, I was dope sick. My mom doesn't know what to do. She's panicking. I went to the emergency room. They turned me away. I went to
Are you drug syncing when you walked into the emergency
room? They were
like,
this isn't a life-threatening situation. You need to go somewhere else. I went to the Human Resource Center, and they turned me away. And there was one doctor. Her name is Tama Weiss. She worked for...
Hi, Tama.
Yeah, we love you. I actually talked to her on Monday, but... she worked for the Paiute Nation, the Toyabe Indian Health Clinic is the name of where she worked. And she said to my mom, if you can get here in 45 minutes, I will prescribe your son Suboxone.
Life-saving.
And my mom, it's also an hour-long drive, and my mom fucking flew there. It was the only person who knew what to do. I wrote an article at 30 Days Sober and submitted it to the paper, and they now have MAT services in that town.
Amazing.
Love that.
Like non-metropolitan areas, we have this on Skid Row. They don't have it in fucking Mojave or
But
Stockton.
even on Skid Row, we have, there's, you know, I'm out there on Wednesday mornings, Thursday mornings, Friday mornings. I also do West Hollywood, right? I bring my little bag, and, you know, I have my little pipes and syringes, and shout out to Narcan. Yay. You know, I feel like still, you know, when we go out there, people are still like, oh, you're killing us. You know, there's always that one person when they see us coming, you're helping killing us. But, you know, it's the thing that we have to go out there and try to educate these people, right? I feel like we need more education about this, and let them know, like, no, we're not trying to get you high. What we're trying to do is, if you are going to use in a healthier way. We don't want you to use a crack pipe, right? Use a new pipe. Why? Because that lessens the spread of some other diseases, right? Or you don't have to use the same needle twice. Like you will be surprised to know how many people use a needle after someone or before someone, or the same needle.
I know a lot.
It is, you know,
Which is, I mean, Hep C is a huge,
Yes.
is a huge epidemic right now.
So we're trying. We're out there on the streets, you guys. There is dog shit. There is human shit. There is rats. There is a huge amount of mental health out there on the streets on Skid Row. You know, and we're out there. We're trying to do something. And you know, I love it now because now they know me by name. They're like, Mikey, you know, they like that what I have in my little bag is gonna help them in whatever way, right? But we're again, you know, if I sometimes I can get like a little chance because they're always in a hurry to get somewhere. I don't know where they're going. Their tent is right there, you know, but they're always in a hurry. You know, I always try to find that window where I can educate them about Narcan, right? Your job is just squeeze it in their nose and somebody dial 911. You know, give them as much as you can. They're not. This is not going to hurt them, right? So, you know. I feel like we need more education and more people that are, you know, that actually are passionate or want to do this. You know, we see a few organizations out there on Skid Row doing this kind of services. So I love it because now we're starting to see more and more and more, you know, so.
So, Mikey, when you are out there doing the Lord's work, honestly, when you're out there and you're seeing these individuals that are, you know, seeking the services that you're providing, have there ever been anyone that you've seen that is now working a more abstinence-based program or that has, you know, gotten sober due to the life-saving work that you're out there doing with the harm reduction?
Yeah, so yes, there have been a few participants or clients. For me, they're just humans, right? There's been a few people that I meet on the streets and that we have connected to MAT services, right? And they're actually in they're members or clients of our treatment center, you know. So there's. I have had people, and it's not that many. I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 that, because I'm out there all the time, you know, that I have had people, they're like, hey, remember that Narcan you gave me? Like, I think I saved a life. And I literally, like, I break down right there, you know, on San Julian and 7th or Maple and 4th, whatever it is, Crockett and 4th, you know, like right by the missions. Like, I start bawling. I start crying because, like, we did something. But yes, I've met a few where, you know, I told them, hey, because, you know, I like to trick people too. You know, I'm like, hey, you know what? I have a hammer pipe. I forgot them, even though I had them. I'm like, I forgot them at my job. Come and see me. So they'll come and see me. And then while they're there, I introduce them to MAP services. And now, again, you know, they're part of our recovery, members of our treatment centers. So it's not many. It's not many. It's not many. You know, at my job, the process of getting them there was a little lengthy. So that would turn people off. So now we're working on a way, after talking to a few doctors, of like just when somebody comes in, get them in there.
Yeah.
Our window is so.
It's that opportunity is momentary.
Exactly. And for me, it's like, we need to get them. Get them. You know, so yes.
I go ahead.
I was going to say, I just love that you're talking about Narcan, right? It is literally like a 5-minute training and it's free.
You can download an image of the prescription on Google Images. And
I have some on my backpack.
I mean, I have some in my car.
I have it in my car.
Yeah. And
you can. There are YouTube videos about Narcan. Please, if you're watching this, please look at them.
Everyone should carry it. Like, I saw someone overdosing at a gas station in Pasadena. And because I had Narcan and because I was trained, I mean, in many ways, to know what an overdose looks like, I was able to go and administer Narcan and wait for paramedics to come. Like, and that person did not die that day. Yeah. And so it's so important, and I really want to hit home with anyone and everyone can get trained, and please do.
Yeah. And there's organizations like CADA that Mikey works for that gives out free Narcan.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's everywhere. I actually think in the state of California, correct me if I'm wrong, you can go to any pharmacy and they give it to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that is so progressive. And you know, not to bring politics into it, but I'm scared of these kind of services going away because we're talking about people's lives.
Right.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, we've all been touched by overdose in some way, shape, or form, right? And I think about if there was more education, if there was greater access, if, young people knew I can call 911 and not get arrested if I'm saving somebody's
That
life.
part.
Yeah.
Or I can walk in and get Narcan and not get red flagged or
Right.
something like that.
Or judged.
Or judged
Yeah.
or whatever. I can't promise you won't be judged, but you're not going to get arrested. And if people knew that, would those people that we know who have passed
Would they be allowed?
still be alive?
Or if they're using together,
Yeah.
and something happens and people just leave rather than calling 911.
Yeah.
It's like
it happens way
all the
more
time.
than
And I will tell you, I'm able to spot who some of the dealers are on Skid Row. You know what I mean? So whenever I talk to them, I push the Narcan on them. Like I'm like, hey, here, without letting them know that I know what they're doing. But I'm like, I will leave a bunch of it with them. I have I seen other
you spot it, you got it.
Yes. Well, I mean, I did sell
had it.
drugs before. But
Exactly.
I know that look, But, I seen some other organizations in downtown. What they started doing is that they have tables set up with Narcan on Skid Row, but they're, oh my God, this one I love. And I discovered, I have a picture of it actually on my phone. Somebody grabbed some Narcan and just staple it on trees. They're stapling them on trees.
Yeah.
It'll be easier for people. You don't have to carry it with you, but just yank it from the
Yeah.
tree and
Like one of those coupons
Oh,
at
yes.
the grocery store. Like, pull it
Yes.
out.
Mikey, I want to segue a little bit into, obviously we're friends, so I've been able to see your journey through sobriety and through your career. But one of the things that I've always appreciated about you is that you're always on the front lines. Like, I remember we would go to Fellowship and go get ice cream in West Hollywood on a Friday night at 10 p.m. And you're out there, doing HIV testing. And in my disease, I was in a place where you go to have sex when you're when you're using, and I walk out of my room and Mikey's in there doing HIV testing. It's like,
I seen him in a towel.
Okay.
like how has that passion and that purpose changed your life?
Well, tremendously. And I think that that's one of the things that makes me not want to use today, right? It makes me not want to use today. Like the life that I have now, it's very simple, but it's so big for me, right? And yes, I at a very young when I was very young in recovery, I have hung out with these people that are like pillars of recovery, right? And they don't hesitate to let you know when you're messing up, or like whenever they see you a little squirrely or doing things that we don't supposed to do. But, I have been doing outreach again for a while, right? And then what that entails is that I am on the streets, I'm on the alleys, I am at in the the
clubs.
theaters, tiki tiki. It smells horrible, but hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. Yes, that also entails going to the gentleman clubs, the spas. They're closing all of them. I think we have like 2 left or 3. But I still go there. Yes.
Is Grand Spa
Oh,
still
I
open?
don't
That
know.
doesn't-
Not naming names, but
I was not a bathhouse gay.
Well,
Bathhouse Betty?
there
Yeah.
was one bathhouse in LA that I used to frequent in my addiction, and
A few.
on Sunday mornings they would have a farmer's market right outside. You know
Oh
which one I'm talking
God, the
no.
Hollywood
So you-
spa.
So you would walk out and your eyes would be this big, and
People are buying
People are buying
vegetables?
vegetables, and your car was towed the night before because you parked in front.
Oh.
You're literally navigating families going to the farmer's market.
The crazy thing is that some of the people that I used to party with or that I used to be in the bathhouse with when I was, I don't know why we call it party, when I was using, because it
really wasn't a party.
right? I'm walking around with a bunch of STDs and scaring my own shadow. It was not a party,
That's it.
right? But, some of the people, they're still there.
Yeah.
Like now that I go back, and they give us a little room where we do testing, thank you, or where we, where I'm one of the people that kind of ruined their high, because I'm like, hey, put a condom on, or when was the last time you got tested? Do you know where Narcan is? the funny thing is that we still see those people. I'm like, how? I mean, of course, they look like 80 years old, and like, not that there's anything wrong with that if you're actually 80, but or they're missing like their whole front teeth. It's like, oh my God, girl, come
many
on.
consequences?
When is the party, quote unquote, over?
You just brought up consequences, which I think is a huge reason. I mean, consequences is why I got sober. The consequences that happened to me were like, I don't know how to get sober unless I'm dying, right? If I'm in a hospital bed and I'm dying, or but like the calls from my mom and the police knocking at my door and all of those things like that, for me it was just like, when is enough? Would you say that like when the consequences outweigh the benefits of getting high? Or
I mean, I think that goes either way, because I know a lot of people, including myself, that like the consequences did not matter because I was not even human towards the end of my addiction. So I had no register for the things that I lost because everything was gone. And really, like, reaching a bottom was not about what I lost. It was not about like being on the street or about to lose my arms. It was that I was unrecognizable to myself. And like that bottom was on the inside. And I think consequences in early recovery are great motivators, but they do not keep people sober.
Yes, I can totally relate to that.
We need something to look forward to. We need like a goal, a vision, a dream, a plan, because that's only going to last you for so long. Oh, I might be on the street. And then, 3 months down the line, that starts to wear off a little because you've been in a cozy home and you've had a few meals.
Right.
So I think really that is a lasting force for a very short period of time, and like really generating momentum and motivation towards like passion and purpose is something that's really important in the trajectory of care.
My husband always talks about, whenever he shares, he's also, he's also not doing any substances. How's that for anonymity?
Anonymity.
Spell it. Okay. I love how people have a hard time pronouncing it, but I'm like, bitch, spell it.
Yeah.
Spell it. Okay. So, but my husband, every time he shares his story, he always talks about consequences did not keep him sober.
Every bottom has a basement.
Yes. Yes. And it's like, I get it. I didn't care about the consequences. Like, what are you going to do? Take my freedom? Well, drugs took that a long time ago.
That's already gone.
Well,
Drugs took that a long time ago.
If fear of death was enough to keep me sober, I wouldn't have picked up in the first place. I mean, I think people say like we quantify addiction, which is why a doctor doesn't diagnose alcoholism anymore. We quantify addiction by the consequences, not by the quantity used. That's why we can sit in a meeting next to, Karen, who drank a bottle of white wine on the weekends, and Ricky, who was shooting meth into his neck. And they both share so many similarities because it's not how much you were using or what you were using, but it was how it made you feel, how you no longer recognized yourself. That's the common part, right?
Right. Yeah.
I wish that I would have gotten sober because I didn't think I looked great. I mean, for me, it was I had to almost die.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
Totally.
I mean, I was on the same track. And I think that, I went to a conference a few years ago for CCAP, which like certifies all substance use credentialing, and shout out. But
that's all three of you.
Yeah. And I witnessed this doctor
CCAP.
who
Shout out
was,
CCAP.
he's like one of the leaders of SAPSI, and his name I cannot remember. But he was talking about how in the past, right, the old way is like, oh, people have to hit their bottom. And he's like, we can't do that anymore because with fentanyl and with meth being what it is, and like just completely new drugs on the street that are affecting people in severe ways, whether it's physically, psychologically, or emotionally, we cannot wait for a bottom because people are dying at the bottom.
Yeah.
Like that is not an option anymore. And I think that is an old language that, I mean, I know I myself would love to shift, because that for a lot of people means death.
Yeah.
Right? With fentanyl and like things like that. There's that is the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, there's also there's a lot of scare tactics. People talk about fentanyl the same way people talk about ISIS. It's like you could almost die just thinking about it. There is a lot of propaganda around this drug that at the end of the day is just a drug. I mean,
misinformation.
It's misinformation used to scare people, similarly to in the 1980s, the sort of Nancy Reagan, just say no. Fear of fentanyl is not going to keep me sober or interested in drugs if I'm a young person.
Never scared of you.
And also fentanyl is more expensive than a lot of other drugs. People aren't giving it away for free.
No.
Okay. So I think there's a lot of like misinformation going around where it's like, you know, oh, this police officer died just because he touched fentanyl. Well, not really possible. But it's all a control tactic, you know.
I mean, it does take a lot less, right?
100%.
I would say if
To
fentanyl,
overdose.
if fentanyl
Yeah.
was around when I was using, I'd be dead.
Oh, same. I got out right
Well,
before it hit.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Have you guys noticed too? Like, this is what gets me. Like, whenever I do paperwork or whenever I see any of my clients or people out there on the street, like, whenever they talk about fentanyl, they like kind of glorify it. You know what I mean? It's like the most
Yeah. We see
dangerous
that a lot,
one
too.
right now out there to me, in my, you know,
And
my own opinion.
mine too.
However, they still glorify it.
It's like a drug statusy thing. Like, oh,
I
fentanyl,
did
like,
fentanyl.
yeah.
You
Like,
don't understand
bitch, you get
how
a
hard
gold
it
ribbon or
was.
something.
Right.
I use fentanyl. I'm really grateful for because it expedited my trip to the bottom. I know we're you know talking about abolishing that term in some way, shape, or form, or changing that language, but it really like sped
out.
up my trip down. It was like 7 months of using fentanyl and it was over. Incomprehensible demoralization. But there is this sort of thing that we're seeing where people are like, oh, you can't relate to my detox experience or to my drug experience because you didn't use fentanyl.
Right.
I mean, in my case, I did, but in a lot of other people's case, there's like this status symbol of the big bad wolf.
I mean, I look at like, was your life destroyed? Yes. Did you miss work? Yes. Did you lie to your mom? Yes.
The
Did you,
consequences.
are you know, and so we have all been on different journeys and different paths, and we all have different times of sobriety. But the thing that I love about us being able to have this conversation is we all know what it feels like to crave a drug, and we all knows what it feels like to get sober. And that's what I find about the magic of like people in recovery. Mikey, so we ask this question a lot on our podcast.
Bring it.
What is your no matter what?
What is my no matter what?
Yeah.
Oh, what is my no matter what? I think my no matter what, it's kind of very simple. Just I can't use. I cannot use my no matter what is I cannot allow myself to use again. I think that's my no matter what. Again, I told you guys I live a very simple life, but for me, it's huge. You know, it's huge. This is somebody that is coming from living. I never consider myself homeless, right? Because I always had somebody. You know, I always had a cute little body.
Did you have a place to send you?
I've always had a little couch.
Where did your
you know?
mail go? Where did your mail go?
My mom's house. Yes, my mom's house, 1143, yeah, in South Central, you know, but I didn't have an email, right? Or whatever it was. But like for me, my no matter what will be, I cannot allow myself to use again. And it's so simple, but there's a lot of work that goes into that, right?
In sobriety, has there been any point where like something huge happened where the thought crossed your mind?
You know, this is so funny that you're asking this. I just finished. I was talking about this because I really don't have a hard time with triggers. I guess because I'm the business that I'm in. I really don't. I see it up front what it can do. You know. So there's one time. I was watching the Beverly Hills Housewives, and these bitches were drinking mimosas, right? Mimosas. And all of a sudden, I got so triggered. I've never been triggered. I had 11 years of sobriety, and these rich bitches were drinking a mimosa, and my mouth, and then it went like, if I have a drink, I could probably have a little, you know, dose of G, and then probably I can get a little bump of K, and then maybe I can smoke the bowl of meth, you know, like my head just started spinning. And I called, you know, the guy that I work with, I called my friend Jeffrey, and I'm like, I just got triggered, you know, and it was just so crazy to me. Because I don't even know what's in a fucking mimosa, okay? I know it's orange juice and champagne or something bubbly, but I don't even know. That's not the kind of alcoholic that I am. You know, I like a 40-ouncer. I like Cisco, you know. I like E&J and 7-Up, you know.
Boone's
like,
Farm.
yes, I don't do this fancy drink. So I don't know where that came from, but it really, it scared me. It scared me. Like, and again, I don't get triggered I don't know why. I guess I'm one of the lucky ones, and I'm okay with that. But that one time that I watched that episode, and I'm like, oh, I hate you, Lisa Vanderpump, because it was in her house. They were drinking them. But anyways, I do like her. I'm just saying.
Have you had that feeling, like some overwhelming cravings and triggers with long-time sobriety when something was going on that you may not have known how to handle? Or
I mean, there's one that's really like in my mind, and I think I had about 5 years. And I was visiting family.
Yeah.
And I didn't stay with my family, and I was alone in a hotel room, and I had what I would call like a negative or disappointing interaction with my mom. And as I went through the hotel lobby, it's very much like Bill's story. Like I was at the Mayflower. It was like one of those choices where I was either like, you know, people are having glasses of wine and doing all the things in the bar. And then it's like, do I go to my room and make a phone call? But I do remember like the felt sense of like just wanting relief, and not to feel disappointment for me has always been like a huge emotional trigger. When I'm disappointed in myself or when I'm disappointed in another person, like I just kind of like want to fold, right? And so learning how to work with disappointment has been a big part of my recovery journey. But when I experienced that and I was alone in a state that's not California, and there's a bar happening and I'm seeing all those people like drinking and frolicking, there was a moment. And then I went and made a different decision, right? I picked up the phone and I called somebody.
Right.
But like there was a crossroad.
Yeah.
I think everybody has those crossroads.
Totally.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I don't want to say all the time, but like in the big book, it says we can take our big lumps. We don't have a hard time with like, I think we kind of think like, oh, when this person dies or if I lose this job or whatever, we build those things up so much that it's actually fairly miraculous how easy it is to glide through those things sober. It's like breaking a shoelace or getting stuck in traffic where I feel insane. I have a very low threshold of tolerance when it comes to patience. So it's like those small things where the work really is daily, right? Yeah. It's like that life is fraught with activation. So I just, you know, have to see everything as an opportunity to not use. I mean, everything.
I get the traffic part.
Yeah.
Oh my God, especially
Homicidal.
living in LA. I have found a few, well, what works for me, especially when it comes to like traffic, because it could be something really, it really fucks with your head. Play some Taylor Swift.
So for those of you that don't know, where's my camera? Is it this one? For those of you that don't know, my good Judy here is the biggest Taylor Swift fan.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She is obsessed. Taylor Swift was coming to town, and
Did you see the Eras tour?
She
Twice.
was bedazzling.
Here
she
and
was
in London.
bedazzling her shoes, her shirts, all the things. Mikey is the biggest Swift.
Well,
What's
you know,
your favorite album?
Right now I'm in my Lover era.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Lover
right now
is
I'm in the Lover.
underrated.
Oh yes, it
actually.
is. You know, but is the thing is that, you know, I have always had a higher power that they were talking about here in recovery. You know, like we need something bigger than ourselves, and I've always had that higher power, and I would pray to it and stuff. But I never knew what it looked like, and I was refusing to have the same one as my mom, or you know, and so anybody else. Like they said, build your own, and I'm like, okay, I will pray, but I never see it.
It's a white 34-year-old girl.
Oh my God. So I'm not saying Taylor Swift is my higher power, you know, because as a 51-year-old man, that sounds kind of weird, but he has her silhouette.
But I
So, you know, and anyways, you know what? My sponsor's higher power is Judy Garland. My best friend's higher power, Link, his higher power is Madonna.
Mine is Dolly Parton.
Hello.
with
So
it.
why can I have Taylor Swift's silhouette?
I love that we're talking about this, because I think that like there are so many activators, right? And music, right? A lot of people had like playlists that they would listen to when they were in it. But like a recovery playlist, like that thing that kind of takes you out of self, that brings joy, that brings happiness. Like, and listen, I'm a huge like Taylor Swift fan as well, but I think that's just as important, right? So you have something that instantly changes your mood and turns the switch and reminds you of joy.
Yes.
It took me a second to get into Taylor Swift, but I remember a few months ago I called Mikey and I was like, "Oh my God, I just heard Love Story," and
How have you just heard Love Story again?
It was like, you know, to be honest, I had heard it when it was like viral, and I didn't know that it was Taylor Swift. And then for whatever reason, it came on my Apple Music, and I called Mikey, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm having my
You're having your moment?
my Swiftie moment." Yeah, but for me, I had 2.5 years sober. and I was working. I had sponsees. I was going to meetings. Everything seemed right. And there was about 6 months, 2.5 years sober, when I just wanted to fucking get high. And I was like, literally, I would hold on to the side of my chair. Like it was, so I called my sponsor and he goes like, let's unpack this. Like, what's happening? And I said, what it really has come down to is, where are my fucking promises? And I had this expectation of like, I have 2.5 years sober and I should have this big, beautiful life. And I wasn't where I wanted to be. And I think I share about this a lot because it really is impactful for me. And I think for a lot of people that are newly sober, is it's like when we get sober, we're as tweakers, and we love instant gratification, and we want what we want when we want it, just like we wanted to be high instantly. When we get sober, we feel like we're going to get sober and we're going to have this big, beautiful life instantly. And like, that just was not my story. My first sobriety, everything came together pretty quickly. But the second sobriety, when I had to get sober, it was like, at 2.5 years, I'm still like, all I can afford is fast food. I'm barely paying my rent in Los Angeles. I'm doing the things. I'm going to meetings. I'm meeting with all these, like, I'm of service. I'm doing all these things. And like, inside I was like, fuck, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
And I got sober for this.
Yeah.
Because I can go out there and I can sell some dope and be able to do whatever I want financially really, really quickly. And my sponsor was like, just sit down and shut up.
Right. Stay in your seat.
Take a deep breath. And for me, I know that type of sit down and shut up kind of verbiage doesn't work for everybody, but for me, that's what worked. Like, I had to hear it from people that I respected. Yeah. And Mikey, you're one of those people.
Thank you.
You're that light in the rooms for me. And I know Mikey is also one of the reasons that I started doing drag, and we get to do all of these service shows together, and I still owe you your earrings. I'm sorry.
Well, listen, I was doing it out on Santa Monica Boulevard, trying to sell a piece of old ass, So, when we got sober, they just, invited us to be part of this huge show, which is called Best in Drag, and we have it's once a year, and we collect. It's one of their biggest fundraisers, but we collect money for
Alliance for Housing and Healing.
Yes, we have been contestants there, but that's one of the things too. It's like service, that we were talking about, people that are in been of maximum service, like they say. You don't have that much time to think about using. It's about also for me, like, about staying busy. Staying busy. It's also about who's in your circle of in your social web, like they call it, right? I was just talking to some clients today. Who's in your social web? Like, who's going to pick up the phone at 11 o'clock at night when you're horny and, you connect sex with meth right away? And, who's going to be there to pick up that phone at 2 o'clock in the morning? Not many people, but that's what we also have to make sure, that we have a connection with a higher power, whatever that may be, right? But also make sure that we keep that social web. Who is going to be there, like, whether it's the circle in my family, my sober friends, my normie friends, if you want to call it, or my professional, it's my counselor going to be able to pick up that phone at 10 o'clock at night. It's my therapist, right? That, again, our clients, and I'm sure no matter what, recovery, we have a whole team. There's teams of people that are willing to help. Right. And so it's make sure, I always tell my clients, my participants, and I have a hard time calling them names because I just say friends, because I just grow this friendship with them, like these people, like, open your mouth, start using that phone. Right?
We picked it up to call the dealer.
Yes, exactly. I always tell people, make 2 to 3 phone calls a day. It's not that many. It's not that many. And so get used to calling these people, so that when it's time, when you're going through that hard time, it'll be easy for you to pick up the phone. And then the person who picks up the phone won't be like, bitch, I haven't talked to you in 2 months. What you want? They're going to know because you're up to date with them. They're going to know how to help you. I have had people call me at really crazy hours of the day. You know what? And what I did is like, hey, okay, you want to go for coffee? Same thing that was done for me. You want to go for coffee at Denny's, even though it's 11 o'clock at night. Neither one of us is going to sleep, or we'll switch it to hot cocoa, or, they have soup at Denny's, whatever. Something
Norm's
that
has really good gumbo.
Who?
Norm's.
Yeah, but I
That
don't
gumbo
eat
is
meat.
good. Since when?
Oh, it's been a while.
cannot
So
with
I
the
did
gumbo
the
at
ACE life cycle.
The gumbo at Norm's is good.
I did the ACE life cycle, which we ride a
wild.
bicycle. I did it a few times, but we ride our bicycles from San Francisco to LA in like 7 days of riding a bike,
Which
in a
raises
little.
money for...
It raises money for the LGBT center here in LA and in San Francisco. But on one of the days, the first year that I did it, I was going up this hill, and I swear my fat ass could not. I'm sorry, nobody shaming for you, but for me, I can. So, anyways, I was going up that hill, and I just couldn't. And then you see all the lesbians; they would come up and down, and they were like, "Hi," and then I'm like, "Oh, you bitch!"
Shout out to the
I'm like,
lesbians.
I was struggling. I was struggling. By the way, they're super nice that week. You know what I mean? Everybody's in the love bubble. So what happened is that we're in the center of California because we kind of go through the coast, but then we go inland and then we go out. And then when we went inland, there was all these farms and where the cows were. So once I was going up this hill, these cows, I swear it was like my higher power, the road, and myself. And it was a lot of praying going on because that hill was very steep. And I just remember the cows going, moo, move. And in my head, I switched it to move. And that was giving me so much energy, and I felt somebody was there, cheering for me. So I switched it, and as soon as I crossed the finish line that year, which was the first year, I said, I'm never gonna eat a cow again, and I haven't done it. I have not eaten beef in like 8 or 9 years.
That's hilarious.
Cute little story.
That's
I
such
love
a,
it.
so next time I see you, bitch, I'm going to say, move.
Honey.
Before we wrap, can you, that phone call, right? I'm horny. At 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Like what do chemsexuals, as you call them, like how do we deal with that?
Well, I think that you were so eloquent in what you said is, the intervention is picking up the phone and calling someone else, right? Like bringing in a different thought, right? Especially if you're in early recovery, like sex is a coping skill for a lot of people that we learn very early on. So it's usually the first thing that people reach for outside of like a substance or even a drink, right? So knowing that those two things are fused and paired together, the chemsex, right? You have to make a different choice. There has to be a pause and a period of abstinence and like a commitment to that, because most people relapse on meth because they have sex too soon. So that intervention is going to be connection and intimate relationships and people that are in your inner circle.
I'm going to wrap with this. One of my favorite sayings is, one phone call may save 2 lives.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening, and please, please, please like and subscribe, and we can't wait to see you next week on the No Matter What Club. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.